Hello, hello, out there in YouTube land. Welcome, Lena. I see you in the chat. I appreciate you being here. You're uh, you're very supportive of this channel, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. I see we have a couple of votes on the poll. Hi, Gina. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. So we have when something upsets you, what do you do first? Or maybe it's not even first. Hey, Emily, welcome, welcome. Um, One person voted for I ask questions to learn the truth, and one person voted for I replay it over and over in my head. That was always me, right? Someone gives you a side eye or um they act hurt, or they tell you they're hurt, and then maybe you get into a disagreement about it, and so now we're replaying it over and over. um that was me. I called myself the queen of rumination. I And someone commented back one time on something that I posted and said that that's not a good nation to be a queen of, and I agree. Now we have 75% replaying it over and over. Um, so yeah, I would ruminate, wondering what I did wrong, making a whole story about how I did something wrong, how it was my fault, how I should have never said anything. I should have never spoken up. I was mean. I was not good enough. Like, just making all this meaning out of something that I had no truth over. But last week we talked about truth versus reality, right? And I'm assuming you all can hear me okay. Um, if someone could put that in the chat. I remember going to, I know one of you for sure follows Rob the Maritimer, and one time he was on his live stream for 10 minutes, um, and he forgot to turn on his microphone. So mine is in my computer, so hopefully that won't be a problem for me. All right, thanks, Emily. So, right, I would create these stories then without investigating. And last week we talked about a truth. I think it was last week, truth versus a reality. And we talked about this book, right? Loving What Is, um, and how she talks about when we don't, the things we struggle with the most are going to be things that I was looking for how she said it, are going to be things that we don't investigate. They're going to be uninvestigated stories. And then those stories just blow up, right? They get bigger and bigger. It's like the big fish story, the fish that got away. um, as it gets told in your mind or to other people, the story just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And typically, these are things that we don't want to happen, right? We don't want someone else to be upset. It's not we're making up stories about positive things. We're making up stories about negative things, things that feel yucky to us. Hey, Peppermint Pammy, thanks for being here. I can also internally justify the situation. Then I get to ignore it and move on. Tell me more. I would love to hear more about that. You internally justify the situation, like you justify how you were in the right, or you downplay it. Is that what you mean by justify it? But regardless, right, you're internalizing it versus versus talking about it and bringing it up. Yeah, I would love to know more about what you mean by that, Peppermint Pammy, and thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Um, I see we have some inner circle members here. You can tell that by the star beside their name, and their name is in green, so that's super cool. So today we are talking about, like, how do we stop these stories from taking over our lives and taking control? If I internalize it, then I have some control over fixing it. Gotcha. I had an aha moment when I was seeing a therapist. I was going to Codependence Anonymous at the time. It was right not long after my toxic marriage ended volatilely. If you haven't seen that video, I encourage you to go watch that video. And another video is coming out today. The title of it is I Married a Covert Narcissist, Lessons I Learned. And it's not just about um, a partner. There are a lot of people in the world who are attracted to women like us who have always put other people first, right? We're always the nice one, the good one. We overlook hurtful behavior. We go along to get along. We are nice at our expense, right? We never say no. We always say yes. Those behaviors are a target for narcissists. So not only was I married to one, but I dated a couple. I didn't know this until after the fact. I had a boss who was, again, I didn't know it at the time. There was a coworker that I can now see had very narcissistic behaviors. And we are a magnet for those behaviors. So this video talks about those behaviors so that you can start recognizing them out in your world and be empowered versus being a target for them. So that video will be coming out this afternoon. I know it's probably afternoon or even evening for Line, as in Sweden. So I know it's evening for her. So watch for that. What was I talking about? I don't remember. Oh, I went to a therapist, and my one of my big things was I covered up for people. I didn't tell other people what was going on in my life. S- So in order to not call out that person that was hurting me. And I told my therapist this because it really bothered me, and she had had me do some journaling exercise, and it came up in the journaling exercise that I covered up for people when I was younger. And she said, "I'm not gonna tell you the answer, but I want you to go home and figure out, like, what are you gaining by covering up for people? What is it that you get to keep or maintain control over by not speaking up, by covering up for people?" So I went home, got out my go to Codependence Anonymous books and other books. I think I had a couple other books. Yeah, I don't remember where it was revealed to me, but it suddenly hit me that I realized I don't have my computer plugged in. There we go. It finally hit me, or not finally, it just hit me like a lightning bolt that, oh my gosh, I was covering up for people in order to control the situation. If I could, even though the outcome was yucky most of those times, right? When I covered up for them, the outcome was known. And because a known outcome feels familiar to the brain, it feels safer to the brain. And so I covered up to control the outcome. If I had spoken up, there might have been an outburst with my ex. If I had told other people what was going on, maybe they would call him out. And then I would have to deal with the fallout from whatever happened. But if I didn't speak up, if I just covered up, if I internalized it, like Peppermint Pammy said, if I internalized it, then I could control it. I could control the outcome. The outcome would be known to me. And that's why a lot of people who are in toxic relationships, whether it's with a family member, with a friend, with a coworker, or with a partner, when we are in toxic relationships, sometimes it's really, really hard to break away because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And I've said many times, I hated that I didn't make the decision to leave my marriage, but I don't know that I had enough courage and enough I think I had the courage. I just was trauma bonded to him, and so I didn't think I had enough courage to leave him, and he left me, and I am so grateful for that because I think it ended much sooner than it would have if I would have been the one ending it. But because I didn't have any control over him leaving, it was my opportunity to cut it clean because, again, I was under this assumption and my body and brain were acting under this pattern that if I spoke up, I didn't know the outcome, and the outcome possibly could be worse than what the current situation was. That's just a way our brain keeps us safe, keeps us surviving. So, Peppermint Pammy, it makes sense. If you internalize it, then you have some control, maybe more control over just what is the outcome, right? The outcome is known to you versus unknown. And therefore, a predictable outcome feels much safer than an unpredictable one, right? Emily said, I always replay the situation in my mind over and over, and I always think of all kinds of crazy scenarios as well, right? Peppermint Pammy, I can cover up for some people to prevent the embarrassment you would feel. Oh, okay. Um, can you say more about that? Is it embarrassment because you realized you're tolerating more than you should? That you're letting them get away with things? Like where's the embarrassment come from? If other people were to know, what would you be embarrassed about? If you can give me like a more specific example, that'd be great. I know sometimes you all are watching on your phone, and I know the chat like minimizes the amount of characters you can put in your chat message. So if it needs to be a couple messages. So now we have one vote for I ask questions to learn the truth. One vote, I'm assuming one vote for assume I know what happened. So we assume, right? And then the most votes for I replay it over and over. Yeah, which is what I did. And that's what this live stream is about, is how we are, I don't know if any of you have heard the phrase, meaning making machines. We end up making meaning out of everything, especially if it feels somewhat negative or somewhat um, confrontational. Like we don't make meaning out of positive things that happen. We don't, if you finally stood up, spoke up for yourself and set a boundary and you're like, "Yes, I did it." We don't create this positive meaning out of that, right? We're going to go to the negative, and that is human behavior. We are negatively biased. That goes back to caveman, cavewoman days where they had to be on alert. They had to be thinking defensively, if you will, which is kind of a negative way, right? Of is there a bear that's going to get me, right? They had to protect themselves. And so our DNA has not changed much since then. We have the amygdala in our brain, which is our fight or flight response. Peppermint Pammy, I'm 26 years into a marriage that sounds similar to yours, but I have covered up and justified horrible behaviors to protect my husband. Oh, ooh, that gave me goosebumps. I'm so sorry that you're going through that, but I totally get it. I was married for 17 years, and the second time, so I've been married 3 times. The third time was the toxic one that ended in 10 months. The second time I was married for 17 years, in year 2, he had an affair. I covered up for him. I never told people except for a counselor that that had happened for 15 years. I didn't tell people until the marriage was ending, until I decided I had had enough. And I started getting an inkling that he was having an affair again. We had been married almost 17 years at that time. And I made a decision to either we were going to fix this, either we were going to step up to the plate and he was going to start, showing um like being honest. And I needed to start being honest about, what I was tolerating myself. And I gave it a certain amount of time and that ended. I also have a video on my channel about that. What is the name of that? Hold on just a minute. I will tell you. You can go watch it if you haven't. It is called um, It Never Gets Easier is the thumbnail. The Hard Conversation That Ended My 17-Year Marriage is the title. So go check that out. But going back to what we're talking about today, we are meaning making machines, right? So I'm curious. Oh, Peppermint Pammy, my children have grown up thinking I chose him instead of taking care of them. Ooh, ouch, right? So Emily said, I don't mean to change the subject. My birthday was this past weekend, and the friend I put a boundary with, she didn't tell me happy birthday. I probably overlooked it, but it hurts. I'm not sure what you mean by you probably overlooked it. Um, right. I keep replaying that she hates me. That's on the subject. Just a different subject or different, theme for what Peppermint Pammy was saying. Uh, so let's talk about what's happening here, right? We're creating meaning out of things that we haven't investigated, right? Like Emily said, you just keep replaying that she hates you. So like why is it important that we even talk about this? Because we don't just experience things like you, Emily, experiencing that, or Peppermint Pammy, experiencing your marriage. We attach meaning to them. And I'd be curious, Peppermint Pammy, like, what are the thoughts that you're hearing in your head about yourself, either because you're protecting him or about who you would be, who you think you would be, who you think other people think you would be if you were to leave the marriage, what you think your children um, think about you. So, because you said, "My children have grown up thinking I chose him instead of taking care of them." So, you've probably had some, it sounds like maybe conversations with them about it. I'm curious to know, they must be grown by now, right? They're adults. So, like, how could you start repairing this relationship? But what happens is, these meanings that we give things, they shape our relationships, just like Peppermint Pammy said, this shaped how her children thought of her. We are literally wired for this, though. Our brains are pattern machines. So if a shadow moves, right, you immediately think that something is wrong, that there's danger. You don't think, "Oh, the light just moved," right? The sun just moved, and that's a very simplified example, but Gina said, "My kids thought the same thing initially, but they know now that I was in survivor mode, and we have repaired our relationship by being honest and talking things through." That's awesome. That's awesome, Gina. So this meaning that we make out of things, this is where we get stuck, because we start thinking that it's true, that the meaning, the thoughts I hear in my head are the truth. And remember again what we talked about last week, is it a truth? Is it actually a truth? Or is it just my current reality? Like, I get it, Peppermint Pammy, that your current reality is that your children think you chose him instead of taking care of them. That is your reality, but does it need to remain a story, right? Does it need to continue to um create that divide in your relationship if that's what's going on? Oh, we have more votes, but most of them are for I replay it over and over. Right. Like, we are just meaning making machines. So, what does this actually look like in real life, right? We get an unanswered text, we get a weird look, we get an offhand comment, someone cuts us off on the road. Those are really simple examples. Peppermint Pammy, I don't know what's going on in your relationship, in your marriage, that's causing you to cover up and justify the behaviors of your husband. But most likely, then you've created more meaning about you around those things, right? Everyone has explained the traits to me. I was so groomed to cover up his behaviors. My children still love me, but are estranged because they cannot watch the enabling. Oof, that's hard. That's really, really hard. Um, so you get the traits, you understand, you're just in a situation, I guess, now where, maybe don't feel like there's a way out, or you don't know what the next step is to take, or you're just, um, you've just, what's the word? Resigned yourself to that this is just the way life is gonna be, this is the way marriage is gonna be. Is that what's happening? So, when things happen, we build this whole story around it, right? And sometimes, a lot of times, we never check to even see if it's true, like Emily said. Um, no, you don't have to keep quiet. You have a voice here, Emily. Um, and I can go back and forth between the stories, that's fine. So, Emily, for you, um, right? We never investigate, like, have you just created this story that she hates you? That's why she didn't wish you happy birthday? I'll give you a great example. I have a friend, we've been friends for probably 30 years. We had a little bit of a disconnect 5 or 6 years ago. I'm never great at wishing people happy birthday, typically on the day, unless it's my mom. Um, I'm just not great at that. And I know that's something I am identifying with. Like, I'm just not a great card sender. That's just not one of my things. My mom's amazing, so I don't know how I didn't get that from her, but I didn't. Um, so this friend that I had a little bit of a falling out with moved away last year. She moved from Phoenix where we would see each other, but it became uncomfortable to see her because of this little bit of a falling out that we had. She moved away. Um, Her birthday was the beginning of May, and I just 2 days ago texted her happy birthday. Maybe it was 5 days ago, but regardless, it was 2 weeks late. I don't hate her, right? It has nothing to do with that, and I don't know the story she's telling herself, but we did reconnect, we had a conversation, and, all is fine. But, right? She could have been telling herself a story. You're telling yourself a story that this friend hates you, because she didn't text you happy birthday or wish you happy birthday. When we don't investigate things, when we don't find out what is really true, maybe she's not comfortable with you for whatever reason and she's not speaking her truth. But by you just creating stories in your head, you also are not um, taking a step to repair the relationship or uh, to give you the answer to these stories that you're telling in your head. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. So we build this whole story, right? And we never check to see if it's true. None of the things that happened actually carry a meaning on their own. Her not wishing you happy birthday doesn't carry a meaning. We give it meaning from our lens, from our own perception, from our own history. Maybe you have a history of people, you feeling dismissed by people, right? And so that is a belief that you're not good enough, that just need to be quiet until I'm done with someone else, right? Those are beliefs, those are stories that you're telling yourself. I never want you to silence yourself. That's a story that you created in your head, right? And that's a great example of an in the moment story that was created. Peppermint Pammy said, I was never a self conscious person for any judgment until I experienced this marriage. Do all you ladies have similar feelings? So you so you never felt self conscious, like you didn't care if someone said they didn't like your hair or, that's an ugly dress or whatever. Is that what you're saying? You were never self conscious about that, about any judgment until you got married. Hmm. I'm trying to think if I was until yeah, I think for me, I I went through most of my life until about 8 years ago seeking validation from outside of me because I thought that's where it was going to come from. I didn't realize that I could be whole on my own, that I didn't have to depend on other people for their love or appreciation or respect or acceptance. If they didn't like me, now I can say this, right? So I think I'm maybe the opposite of you. But I definitely felt judgment in my marriage and I didn't speak up because of the judgment that I was afraid I would get. that, "Oh my gosh, you've been married 3 times and it's not working. What's wrong with you?" Gina said, "It definitely helps that they no longer live in my home either and can't wait until I've moved out also, but there is a lot at stake. When they hear me and my partner, they disengage." Peppermint Pammy said, "I've always been terrible for special days. Thank you for sharing your experience so I can empathize." Oh, I'm glad someone else is like me. I'm horrible. Like, and I stress myself out over it. It will get to be the day, and I think, "Oh, crap, I should've, coulda, shoulda, coulda, whatever." And, yeah, I've beat myself up about that. Um Miss M, maybe my friend thinks since I haven't talked to her for a few months that maybe I don't want to hear from her. Maybe, but that's a story. Maybe she thinks since you haven't talked to her for a few months, she doesn't, you don't care about her, right? You're both living in whatever meaning you're making out of it versus figuring out what's true. Emily, I'm going to go with that instead of her hating me. Yeah, absolutely. That's better, right? But it's still putting it's disempowering you because you're saying, "Well, maybe she thinks this." What do you think? Do you want her as your friend? Is this a friendship um that you honor, or is this someone that you don't necessarily want in your life anyway, or maybe not on a daily basis or on a monthly basis? Like, you get to decide. You get to decide. But what you're saying is that maybe she thinks since you haven't talked for a few months that you don't want to hear from her. That's putting power in other people's hands. That's giving your own agency, who you are as a person, what you want, what you need, what you desire. You're giving that away to other people. And then you get to be mad when they don't wish you happy birthday. But you're not investigating it, right? And I know I'm coming across a little um blunt, but that's where resentment comes from. Well, she didn't wish me a happy birthday, right? Then I get to be resentful because of something that I think they should have done that they didn't do. But I never took time to investigate. Maybe she's not well, right? Maybe something's happening in her life. Maybe she forgot, like a human. Once you get to menopause, Emily, you'll understand that sometimes we forget things. And I know she's probably not, she's probably your age, right? But I'm just throwing out examples of how we so easily give away our power to these stories that we're giving meaning to, and we're making them mean something about us. What are you making it mean about you, Emily, that she didn't wish you a happy birthday? I would love for you to answer that question. What are you making it mean about you that someone didn't wish you happy birthday? And happy birthday, by the way. I hope you had a great weekend. Gina said they have trauma from it. Yeah, they hate to hear me and my partner go at it. Peppermint Pammy said I was a pretty free spirit in youth, sometimes called the crazy lady for having fun. Well, good for you for having fun in your youth, right? So what would it take for you to bring some of that back again in your life? What is it? Does that mean you need to get divorced? Does that mean you need to separate? Does that mean you need to start speaking your truth and setting some boundaries? Like, Where did Peppermint Pammy go that she can't be that, crazy lady having fun? Emily, I do want to be friends with her. I just want it to be a simple friendship, if that makes sense. Okay, then speak that to her. Whatever's not making it simple for you, speak that truth to her. Because until you do, she's just guessing. Maybe she thinks you don't want a friendship at all. Lena said, I've been very much a person who made meanings from everything without knowing anything. I still do it, but have become better at asking to get clarity to know the truth. I was the one voting, I ask. Oh, good for you. Yeah, because if we don't ask, right, how do we ever know? So let me get back. I have some notes here. Peppermint Pammy. I've separated my space by moving into the backyard abode. I hear it's called a new fancy viral name of silent divorce. Oh, um, interesting. Is it actually is a silent divorce? I'll have to look that up. I haven't heard that before. Um, I've heard like, oh, I won't be able to think of the name of it. Maybe that is what it was called. Uh, but it was a divorce like in your 50s. Um, I've changed so drastically. I'm happy to cocoon alone in my personal safe space. Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to know if you want to share, like, what's keeping you from actually getting divorced? Like, are you a caretaker for him or, is there something there? Is it just financial maybe? Which I totally get. I totally get. I'm just curious. Emily, when my friend didn't wish me a happy birthday, I feel that she abandoned me and she doesn't want me anymore, right? So you're creating this meaning about it, and it's going to separate the relationship. Oh, Peppermint Pammy, I'm financially trapped. Gina said, what about a person never wishes you a happy birthday every year, but you always wish them one? Again, I suck at that. I typically will text someone, but I don't send Christmas cards, and I've heard people say, "Well, I'm not gonna send them a Christmas card anymore," which, I'm included in that because they don't send me one. Well, we all operate, right? We all have different values. That maybe is a good way to put it. And what happens a lot of times is we expect other people to act according to our values. So if you could pick your top 5 values, my top 5 values probably are going to be different than yours. If and what ends up happening is we expect someone to value the same things we do, especially friends that are close to us or our partner, things like that, right? And then when they do something against one of my core values, I think they're doing it against me. They just don't value that thing the same way. And relationships get in so much trouble over this because we're all human, we're all individual, and because of our upbringing and the things we experienced and the things we end up valuing different things. So that's a good question, Gina. What about a person never wishes you happy birthday every year, but you always wish them one? Are you doing it to get something in return, or are you doing it because it's something that you value their friendship? That doesn't mean because they don't wish you one back that they don't value your friendship. They just have different ways of acknowledging you as a person. Do they not value you at all? Can you see ways that they do honor your friendship? Can you see other ways that they do honor your friendship? That's just one way that you choose to honor your friendships, right? But that doesn't make them wrong for not doing it. So I would again ask you, are you doing it to get something in return, to be seen as nice or to be seen as the good one? I'm just throwing it out there and asking the question. But a lot of times we, especially if we have always put other people first, always put ourselves on the back burner, we're trained, we're conditioned to be the good girl, to be nice, to be giving, to be caring. If that's what you are, if you grew up as a people pleaser, we'll call them, we give things to receive. We, a lot of times, don't give just to give for the sake of giving. I'm not saying that's what you do. Okay, you're doing it out of love. Perfect. You're doing it out of honoring your friendship. I would just have you question yourself and say, in what ways does this person, I don't know if it's male or female, but in what ways does this person honor our friendship? In what ways, different ways, do they honor? I wouldn't I would guess that you wouldn't stay friends with them if they weren't honoring your friendship in some way. If they weren't telling you, showing you in some way that they love you back, right? We don't typically, although people pleasers will continue to try and try and try and try and try, right? But hopefully eventually we get to a point where it's like, I'm done being the only one trying. So are you, Gina, the only one that's trying in this relationship? Or is there reciprocity, just not in the same way? And again, that's what we're talking about today, about how we make meaning. You're making a meaning. What are you making it mean about you or about her that she doesn't also, um, was it send you a birthday card or wish you a happy birthday, right? What are you making it mean about you? What are you making it mean about her? What are you making it mean about your friendship that she doesn't do that, but you do? That's the question I would ask. Because when we can start being honest about that, a whole new world opens up because we start realizing, holy crap, I'm creating meaning out of nothing. I don't like conflict and it makes me feel uncomfortable and it raises my anxiety. So I just keep quiet. So that's what I've been doing in this situation with my friend. Right. So you're not empowering yourself to speak up. You would rather have the pain of the anxiety, the the I'm just going to say it bluntly, the ability to say that she's wrong, to point the finger that she didn't wish you a happy birthday in order to stay comfortable and not deal with your anxiety. Your anxiety will, you know what? If someone had talked to me this way 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I'm not sure how I would have taken it. Would have I been like, "Well, screw you," right? Or would have I been like, "Oh my god, thank you for pointing out where I'm at in this." So, I get it. If it might be a, "Screw you, Heidi," like, "You don't know my situation, you don't know my life." I totally get that, right? I'm just coming from a place of where I'm now on the other side, and I can see the patterns that I had where I pointed the finger and I'm like, "You know what? F you for for whatever," right? Whatever. And I kept being resentful. F you to my husband, who kept breaking his promises, who kept saying he would do these things and he didn't, who kept stonewalling me, who kept making me, accusing me of having an affair. Like, F you. And I allowed my resentment to build up because I thought he was doing it to me, and that then I was making meaning about who I was in that situation, that I wasn't good enough, that I was being selfish, that I wasn't giving enough of my time. Like all this meaning that just diminished me. And I had so much anxiety in that relationship that I ended up having surgery for the same thing, under general anesthesia, not a small thing, to have 4 times in 6 months. That is very devastating to a body, right? But I didn't speak up. And that's what it boils down to. I did not put my foot down and say, enough of this bullshit. I am not taking this anymore. Either you get help and you stop talking to me this way, or we're done. Right. And toward the end, I did say to him when he accused me one day of having an affair, I said, I don't know how much more of this I can tolerate. And that was one of the bravest things I had said. And that was probably 2 weeks before he left. So we have to start speaking our truth. Well, we don't have to, right? We can say, okay, well, it's too uncomfortable. I have too much anxiety. I don't like the conflict. But then that's what we're going to live in. You're going to continue to stay, because I can guarantee you, by not speaking up, by not having that conversation with her, you still have anxiety. You still feel discomfort because you know there's a rift in your relationship and you want it to be different. You just want her to be the one to come to you and make it okay. We have to start standing up for ourselves and not waiting for the other person. Emily said, okay, it's okay to be blunt. Gina said, you made some really good points. I really need to think about what you said. Thanks. You are welcome. Peppermint Pammy, I always thought it was me being nice till I watched one of your earlier videos for my aha moment. Even if I don't want something tangible, I was expecting admiration. It does hurt to realize it, right? But once we realize it, once we know that we're creating this, then we can create something different, right? If it's out there, if they're doing it, then I have no control. So Emily, for you, if she's doing this, you have no control. And right now you can just stay comfortable in the fact that your relationship is probably going to stay tenuous and it's going to be strained, and you're going to think that she hates you, and we don't know what she thinks, right? Until someone speaks up, nothing can be done other than just continuing to make these meanings in our heads. You're right. Maybe it's all my fault and not my friend's fault. I'm not saying that it's all your fault. There's no fault here. It's just your brain trying to keep you safe. Let me keep going here because I have some ways to shift this, right? So again, it's no one's fault. It's just an uninvestigated thing. It's a story that you've created that you haven't investigated. Nobody's at fault. It's just what our brains do. We create stories. And here's the thing. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are not, I'm not good enough. She hates me. You are not that. You are the thinker. Like, pretend you're stepping outside of your body or outside of that thought and you're observing it. Put it up on a movie screen. How do you see it differently when you see it up there? Put both of you and your friend, Emily, up on a movie screen and watch your movie, the movie of the two of you and your life, as an observer. see how that might make a difference in what your maybe she's sitting at home like crying, right? Because your friendship feels um diminished or severed, right? You don't know. But observe, like imagine how it could be. Imagine going to her and saying, I really feel this divide between us, and I don't want us to be divided. I want us to have a nice, easy friendship. How can we do that? What are you feeling? You're right. Maybe it's all, oh, I read that already. We should change those words fault, which causes guilt, to problem, and then it changes to curiosity for a solution. Absolutely. That's awesome. So if we say, maybe it's my problem, right? And then I can go, well, so if it's my problem, right, which I'm okay with, because then I have the capability to create a solution. What's a good solution for me? Let's get curious. Let's experiment, right? Like we talked about a few weeks ago in the live. Experiment with things. Maybe you go to her, Emily, and you sob the whole way through the conversation. Okay, you did it. You spoke up, right? What does that mean about you? Nothing negative. You you shared what was on your heart, right? You spoke from your truth. It's not from needing something in return. It's from, I love you, I care about you. Here's my truth. From my perspective, here's how I feel, right? But so let's go back. We build this whole story, right? Um, Again, Byron Katie in this book, and I think maybe one or two of you ordered it. She talks about questioning those stories before they take root. But our brain does this, right? Because our brain hates uncertainty. So your brain, Emily, hates the uncertainty of why didn't she text me happy birthday? Why didn't she wish me happy birthday? Gina said, someone not wishing happy birthday. Why didn't they? Right? And so then our brain creates this story, it creates this meaning about it because at least the meaning is not uncertain. So as humans, we hate uncertainty. I've always had a problem with speaking up. Right. Um, you know what? How you start learning to speak up is start to speak up, right? You can't sit back and say, "Oh, I'm scared to speak up. I'm scared to speak up. I'm scared to speak up," right? You just have to take that small step. Take a small step first, right? Say something that you wouldn't normally say to someone who's safe. Maybe that's just, I love you, to someone you haven't said I love you to before or often. Whatever it is, start speaking your truth at when you're ordering ice cream, right? Like instead of hem hawing around about the decision, just make a decision and speak it. Order at a restaurant, pick the restaurant, right? Like I don't know where you have a problem speaking up most, but start doing it because you probably have a problem speaking up in a lot of areas in your life if because it's not usually just in one area. So start speaking up in un un in ways that aren't don't feel unsafe, right? It's not unsafe to pick the restaurant. It's not unsafe to choose, what you really want to eat. It's whatever. Just trying to think of examples, right? So again, our brains hate uncertainty. They are wired for survival. Assuming the worst is what kept our ancestors alive. right? And our DNA hasn't changed much from then. Our brain hasn't changed. Um, and our brain fills in gaps. Why didn't she wish me a happy birthday? That's a gap, right? That you don't know the answer to. And our brain fills in those gaps with assumptions, not facts. You get that? The brain doesn't like a gap. It doesn't like not knowing because not knowing means uncertainty, and uncertainty could mean unsafe. And so it fills in the gaps with assumptions. And the assumptions come from past history, past stories you've told yourself, past things that you've experienced. I have never done that, speaking my truth. That's why I only hang with the stronger, assertive women that hopefully got my back. I got your back, but I can't speak up for you, right? And I get it. I never spoke my truth either. Never spoke my truth. Um, yeah, I was trying to think of like that's partly what this video that's coming out later today is about is how marrying a covert narcissist, the two biggest lessons that I learned weren't about him, they weren't about narcissism, they were about me. So watch for that video, because I didn't speak my truth. I let everybody else decide, big things, little things, it did not matter. It did not matter. And but then I got to play small, and I got to play the blame game that if things went wrong, they chose, right? They chose that. If, um, you know, if things if, uh, if they got upset, it's not me, I didn't do it, and then I got to sit basically in the victim mode, in the victim seat, and say, "It's all out of my control," right? I have no control, but what happens is then we end up living our life that way, that I don't have control, and it is hard to be friends or to be a partner or to be in relationship with someone who is the victim. And that was me. I realized that, you know, bless my friends for putting up with my crap because I played the victim a lot and I still sometimes do. I'm not beyond complaining about stuff. And I recognize it because it doesn't serve me to complain. And a complaint usually is just me making meaning out of something that I'm just making up. Gina, when I do speak up, I felt guilty afterwards. Strangely enough, I felt empowered when I speak up also. Right. So, okay, here's the thing. That's a great point. We think we have to wait until guilt's not going to happen anymore. And that when I do find the courage to speak up, I've I've gotten so good at it, or the courage is going to keep the guilt from coming. The guilt maybe is going to come anyway because that's a pattern. That's a meaning that we've made out of speaking up. That speaking up is wrong, right? That speaking up that nice girls don't speak up. They don't stand up for themselves. They don't say no. They don't say what's on their mind. They don't speak their opinion. They're bitchy if they do that. They're mean. They're condescending. They're, trying to be better than whatever it is. Those are the meanings that we've made out of that. And so when I do speak up, I thought the same thing. Oh, the guilt isn't going to be there anymore. No, the guilt is there because the pattern of speaking up feels wrong. That pattern, just because we do it once or twice or 10 times, that pattern doesn't automatically go away. It's like a scratch on a record, right? The scratch is there. We just have to know how to move forward even with the scratch on the record. How do we listen to the music with the scratch that's there. So, feeling empowered and feeling guilty, like, by the way you said it, it seems like you thought those couldn't live simultaneously. You can have both. It's not either or. You can be empowered and still feel guilty, especially if this speaking up thing is new for you. I hope that lands for you, right? We don't not speak up because we're afraid of feeling guilty. We want to speak up and acknowledge that it's going to be scary and I'm probably going to feel guilty. There's probably going to maybe be some tears. For me, that's usually what happens when I speak up is the emotions come and I'm learning how to regulate my nervous system, but my nervous system thinks speaking up is not safe. And so it puts me in fight or flight or freeze or fawn. And the fawn response of people pleasing is to just people please. And with that, I cried a lot when I was younger in order to um soothe things, soothe other people. Like I backed down, I my emotions came up, I backed down in order. I know that doesn't really make sense. In order for them to back off, maybe you if you will, or to make them think differently about me. It lands for me. Thank you. Exactly. Right? So, right, it's not nothing's wrong just because you feel guilty. Guilt is not a beneficial emotion. But we think that it's telling us that we did something wrong. It's not telling us that we did something wrong. So don't believe it for what it is. It's just an old pattern. It's what you thought you it's what you were taught. You should feel guilty for doing that, right? It was what you were taught and now it's conditioned in as a habit that when I speak up, I feel guilty. It's just what the brain is going to do for a while. Eventually, that goes away. Eventually, but it takes a while, like much longer than you might think. And it may never go away completely. Just know that you can have two feelings at the same time. You can feel empowered. You can be like, yes, I spoke up, and oh, holy crap, that feels uncomfortable inside, right? I feel like I did something wrong. But let's get to how we can train ourselves to start realizing what's true in that. Again, the brain hates uncertainty. The brain is efficient, not accurate. So it's going to fill in those gaps because it's much easier to fill in a gap with an assumption than to have the gap there because then it has to deal with the gap. And I don't know what to do with the gap, right? That's what the brain says. Familiar patterns feel true. If something reminds your brain of a past experience, it copies and pastes that old story into that new situation, into that gap. And then voila, you have the meaning that gives you anxiety. This is just something that's happening automatically. It's just normal. Yeah, very normal. And then our emotions supercharge that. It's like, holy crap, I feel guilty. I did something wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then we make meaning out of this uninvestigated story, right? I spoke up. I feel guilty, even though I feel empowered, but the guilt is stronger. And so now I go into the story of I did something wrong versus I stood up for myself. I did something right. I did something empowering. That's probably a better word, right? I did something for me. I did something for me. So these stories, like I've been talking about with most of you, right? They erode our relationships. We end up ghosting people instead of asking for clarity. We assume instead of clarifying. And the stories we repeat start to become part of our identity. They just hate me. People hate me. right? That's an identity. It's part of who you think you are. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. It's not a truth. It's just an unedited and uninvestigated story that you've told. This runs on autopilot. It's normal. So you have to get in the driver's seat and start questioning these stories, these meanings that you're making out of things. I sometimes want to go to a doctor and have them rewire my brain because my brain confuses me a lot. You can rewire your brain without going to the doctor. That's what we're doing here. And they can't do that for you. A doctor can't do that. You do that. You rewire your brain. It's just learning new patterns. It's just learning new thought patterns. That's all it is. So, how do we shift this? Before we accept this story that, oh my gosh, I must have done something wrong. I spoke up and I feel guilty. So that means I did something wrong, right? Run it through a filter. First, is this story that I'm telling myself, and I'm almost done here, is it useful? Is this story that she hates me, she didn't wish me happy birthday, and she hates me, is that useful? No, right? It's not useful. But let's start looking at these through a lens of wanting to gain clarity, wanting to investigate, wanting to repattern our brain. When we start questioning these things, the brain starts understanding that you want to create a new meaning for things. So, is it useful? Does this thought actually help me solve something? Or is it just a spinning thought? Is it true? Like, objectively, is this true? Or am I just feeling it like really hard right now? Emily, I'm sure when she didn't message you or wish you happy birthday, it felt hard in the moment. But you don't have to hang on to that hard and keep reliving that and creating, making that story bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Right. Needs to be more positive and not being so hard on myself. Right. So start questioning the stories that you hear yourself, that you hear in your thoughts. Remember, you're not your thoughts, you're the thinker of your thoughts. So, second, is it true? Third, is it even mine? Is this story even mine? Or is that the voice of a parent, a critic, society, right? Brene Brown, I believe she's a psychologist, but she's written many books. She's amazing. If you haven't watched her TED Talk on vulnerability, I highly recommend it. But she says to say, the story I'm telling myself is blank. And that naming it creates distance from it so that, again, you can put it up on a movie screen and see it from a distance. The story I'm telling myself is blank. What is the story that you're telling yourself about this thing? The story I'm telling myself is my friend hates me because she didn't wish me happy birthday. Put that up on a screen and view it as an observer. If you saw two friends aside from you, right, apart from you, is that what you would automatically assume was happening just because? If you put me and my friend up on the screen, do you assume because I didn't wish her happy birthday for at least 2 weeks that I hate her? Is that what that means? That's what we're telling ourselves, right? We are meaning making machines. So what meaning are you making out of this? About them, about you. Right. So when we create distance this way, we're no longer inside the story, we're looking at it from an outside perspective. And then communicate. Here's what you can do, Emily. Hey, I felt sad when you didn't wish me happy birthday. Did you was that what you meant? Was did something happen? Are we good? How can we repair our relationship? It can be as easy as that. There doesn't need to be conflict. She might be sad. Maybe she realizes she hurt your feelings. Maybe something happened in the past and she hadn't spoken up that hurt her feelings, right? You are the editor of this machine, not just the output. So you don't have to live the meaning that you're making out of these stories or these events that happen in your life. So take the wheel, like take the wheel of your life and start investigating the meaning and the stories that you're telling yourself about everything that happens. They cut me off in traffic. Oh, they're such a jerk. Really? Or did something happen? A guy cut me off on getting on the freeway last weekend. Getting on the freeway, 2 lanes going down into one. He in a big truck pulling a trailer, like, steps on it, basically, um, like, pushes me out right at the place where it went into one lane. I had to, back down in order to not collide with him. Big puff of black smoke. He gestures something that I can see through the rear view window of his truck. I gesture back. I was mad. I was like, "Ah, what a jerk. I'm gonna step on it and catch up with him, and I'll show him." And, like, then I realized, "Wait a minute. What's happening here?" I don't know. His wife could be in labor. He could have an emergency. Maybe someone passed away. Maybe he's just a jerk. I don't know, but I don't know him. I don't know his life. I don't know anything about him. And I, in the moment, made meaning about this person I know nothing, absolutely nothing about. I make meaning out of, you know, people that I do know things about, things they say to me or, give me a weird look or whatever, right? Instead of investigating it, I've made meaning out of it. When we do that, we are just living on autopilot. And I want to encourage you not to live on autopilot anymore. This wasn't a big truck, not like a 18 wheeler or anything. It was a just a like a big Ram, souped up Ram truck, pulling a like a construction trailer. Um, so I hope that wasn't you. It was definitely a guy, um, and I'm assuming by the name Pammy that you are female. Uh, and that you're married to a man. So, not that that is, always the case. So, um, just want to invite you, if you're not in the inner circle, that is there available. I have a deep dive video in there about our beliefs and our identity. And Emily, I know that you watched it. Um, and got some benefit out of that. The inner circle is only $6 per month. I know that YouTube has been offering um 0 for the first month to some people. I don't know how they're choosing, whatever, but you can click the join button below this live stream to get more information about the inner circle. Again, it's $6 a month. You could go in and listen to that video and unsubscribe, stay a month, stay a year. I don't care, but I'm going to keep adding videos into there to help you dive deeper onto these subjects that I'm talking about. I can't go that deep in my regular videos on my regular channel. And so I created the inner circle as a place where I could dive deeper for people who want to go and get more support in a deeper way. So would love for you to join the inner circle if it feels like something that calls to you. You get fun little emojis. I don't know, Miss M, if you've used any of the emojis today. Um, fun emojis, and your name is in green. You get a little star beside your name in the chats. And I'm so happy, Miss Emily. I'll be excited to hear how that goes. Thanks to all the peeps on the chat. You guys made my day. Thank you so much for being here. Would love to see you in the inner circle. I'm here live every Wednesday at 2:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Would love to see you back next week. I love like developing some connections with you who continue to show up often. I really like that and love connecting with new people as well. So thanks for being here. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. I always do. And yeah, just be the pilot of your own life, right? Don't continue to run on autopilot. I think that is the core message. Look at the meaning that you're making out of everything and investigate whether or not it's really true and whether or not that's what you want to continue um, living under that story. All right. Have a great rest of your day and week, and I hope to see you next week.